Hi, good evening, everybody. I just want to give a quick heads up. We're about 10 minutes out from our 88th annual business meeting. So if you're milling out around the tent, please make your way in, take a seat. If you're already here, thanks for joining us, and we'll get started in about 10 minutes.
Good evening, everybody. It is 5:30, and I'd like to welcome everybody to the 88th annual meeting of the Cherryland Electric Cooperative. Yes, 88 years. My name is Gabe Schneider, and I'm the president of the Cherryland Board of Directors. And with over 150 members having submitted ballots, a quorum is present. So we'll proceed with our annual business in accordance with the cooperative bylaws. So if we could begin, please rise if you're able, and the color guard from the Traverse City Young Marines will present our nation's colored, followed by a special performance of the national anthem sung by Betty Cordner.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Thank you. Thank you to the Traverse City Young Marines for being with us today. And their participation really has become a valued part of our annual meeting tradition. And a special thank you to Betty for that amazing rendition of our national anthem. Thank you for taking the time. Betty is the daughter of Chad Corner, one of our incredible line workers. So thank you for being with us. I'd also like to take this moment to acknowledge any veterans and Gold Star families who may be in attendance. Please rise and be recognized. Thank you for your service. And next, I'd like to welcome our Senior Vice President, Valerie Handy, to the podium for the invocation.
Heavenly Father, we ask you today for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this meeting. Help us to engage in meaningful discussion, allowing us to nurture the bonds of community. Fill us with your grace, Lord God, and guide us with your infinite wisdom as we deliberate upon these important matters today. And continue to remind us that all that we do here today, all that we accomplish, is for the pursuit of truth, for the greater glory of you, and for the service of humanity. We ask these things in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you, Val. As members of the cooperative, your voice matters, and we welcome your participation in tonight's meeting. Later in the program, we have set aside some time to answer member questions. And if you're joining on Facebook or YouTube, feel free to submit your questions in the comments section. And for those inside, look for our Cherryland staff in the red shirts, and we'll be happy to relay your questions to us, and we'll be happy to answer those. I just wanted to go through a few housekeeping items before we dive into our agenda today. Just like we always do here at Cherryland, we're actively watching potential storms. So if we seem to be hurrying up at the end of this meeting to clean things up, it's because we know that storms are on their way and we are ready. I would also like to extend a thank you to Chris Morehart, the Incredible Moe's crew. They do a fantastic job hosting this event and really appreciate them doing that again this year. And yeah. And maybe the most important item that most people are waiting for to find out is when the raffle winners will be announced. So that'll be 6:30 right here under this tent, so stick around for that. So before we proceed with the actual business of tonight's meeting, I would like to take a moment to recognize a few special guests and partners who help strengthen our cooperative. We're joined by a number of public officials as well as colleagues from Wolverine Power Supply. And thank you for those all that you do in support of our membership. So thanks for being here from Wolverine. And we had Josh from Senator DeMoose's office here with us as well. I'd also like to recognize the dedication of our Cherryland Cares Board. Some of you may have visited them out in the parking lot. In 2025, this group of volunteer members helped direct over $60,000 in member-donated funds to 20 local nonprofits in our area. If you're interested in rounding up your monthly bill and giving back through the Cherryland Cares program, stop by the booth near the ice cream truck, and they'd be happy to get you signed up for that. Next, I would like to acknowledge our scholarship recipients. These outstanding individuals were each selected for their hard work and dedication and are in attendance this evening. So if you are a scholarship recipient, could you just wave your hand? Thank you for being with us. Congratulations. So next up, I would like to ask our secretary, Melinda Lautner, to read the notice of meeting and proof of mailing.
Good afternoon. I'm Melinda Lautner. I'm Secretary of the Board of Directors for Cherryland Cooperative. I attest that on May 1st, 2026, Cherryland mailed a notice of annual meeting to each of its members by third-class mail. The notice of the annual meeting was contained within the May edition of the Country Lines magazine and was provided that the meeting is to be held on June 11th, 2026. A copy of the notice of the annual meeting will be kept by Cherryland as part of its corporate records.
Thanks, Melinda. At this time, I would ask the secretary to read the minutes of the 2025 annual meeting or accept a motion from the membership to dispense with the reading. So I would entertain a motion. Thank you, Jim. We appreciate that. Do we have support? Yes, thank you for that support. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries, and we've dispensed with the reading. That's a relief for the secretary, I'm sure. Next, we're going to move to the proceeding of the election, and I'd like to introduce our cooperative attorney, Mr. Jason Hanselman, representing our legal team at Dykema.
Thank you, Gabe. At this point, we're going to start closing out the election process. Anybody who was in line and is still in line was in line at 5:30 or still in line can vote. Otherwise, we're closing out the election process now. Are there any questions from the members about the election process, the ballots? Okay. Hearing none, I'm going to ask that the Election and Credentials Committee proceed to complete the counting of the ballots in accordance with the bylaws. I'd also like to take a minute to thank the members of the Election and Credentials Committee for their time and dedication to this process. They really make everything run smoothly. We've been back in a room for the last several hours counting and processing ballots, so really can't thank them enough. All the board members, I'd like to just call them by name. Julie Newcomb, Linda Burton, Ron Dilley, James Vanderlee, David Maxon, Noreen Castes, and Rachel Fehrenbach. Thank you very much. I know they can't hear me now, but please thank them if you see them tonight.
Great. Thank you, Jason. Up next is our treasurer's report from Board Treasurer Dean Adams.
Hello, my name is Dean Adams, the treasurer of Cherryland Electric Co-op. The treasurer report. The unconsolidated balance sheet of Cherryland Cooperative Incorporated as December 31st of 2025, the related unconsolidated statements of income, equities, and cash flows for the year then ended have been prepared by management in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles and including all auditor adjustments by CPA firm of the Raymond Group. A copy of the audit consolidated balance sheets and statements of the operations for the year ended in December 31st of 2025 is included in the May issue of the Michigan Country Line magazine. Audit financial statements are also available at the cooperative offices upon request.
Okay, thank you, Dean, for that. Directors, do I have a motion to approve the treasurer's report? Thanks, Val. Do we have support? Melinda, thank you for that support. Do we have any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, next up, we have a special guest with us tonight. Zach Anderson, the Chief Operating Officer of Wolverine Power Cooperative, is here to share an update on Wolverine. Zach, welcome to the stage.
I'll take that. Thanks, stand behind the podium too. Now I hear it. Everybody hear me okay? Yes. All right. Thank you, Mr. Schneider. Appreciate the introduction. Good evening, all. My name is Zach Anderson, Chief Operating Officer from Wolverine Power Cooperative. For those of you, many of you know who we are at Wolverine, but just a quick refresher. We are the generation and transmission electric cooperative that Cherryland has chosen to be its long-term power provider. So our job, as the name might imply, is to generate the power or buy the power on behalf of Cherryland and our other cooperative members, deliver that via transmission lines to the distribution substations, and then Cherryland and our cooperative members take the power from there to deliver it to your homes and businesses in a very highly reliable fashion. So we have a very simple and old-fashioned mission. It's reliability, it's cost competitiveness, and it's service to our members. Our members own us. They have expectations on our delivery. We are a not-for-profit just like Cherryland. So our role is to deliver at cost, at the lowest and most competitive cost that we can, reliable and affordable power for our members. I want to touch on just a few quick things tonight that you all are probably thinking about as you're at this meeting, so you're engaged in what's happening in the utility industry. There's really three big hot topics right now that I'll touch on, and then I'll talk specifically about how we're managing through these really interesting and in some cases challenging times. So three big things. We've got data centers and large loads. So there's massive, massive load growth happening in this country. Frankly, load growth that we haven't seen in decades, if ever, arguably. So there's massive load growth, and I'll talk about what we're doing in partnership with our co-op members to manage that load growth. I lost track of my timer here. Excuse me. I want to make sure I'm on time. So data centers. The second topic is the changing and evolving electrical grid. So as we transition away from more traditional, especially coal-based resources, that's been happening now for a couple of decades and at an accelerated pace, albeit a bit paused right now, but we don't have time to get into all of that. Coal's retiring and being replaced largely with new renewables. Primarily in the past, it had been wind, and now it's a lot more solar. And so that's happening. And what are we doing in that space as your power provider to meet those new demands in the challenging grid? And how is our portfolio positioned to handle that? And then the third big issue that I think we're all facing, we see it at the gas pump, we see it in our everyday lives at the grocery store, is inflation. So how do we handle and manage inflation as we, Wolverine, as your power provider, are a big cost input in terms of what that bill looks like when it ultimately arrives at your house? So three big things: data centers, changing grid, and then inflation. What are we doing about those things? So specifically, a few things going on, and I'll start with data centers. So we've been working with all of our co-op members across the state to come up with a playbook to say, how do we manage this? And I'm sure Rachel will touch on this. We have an obligation, and if your cooperative at Cherryland has an obligation, that means Wolverine, as your power provider, has an obligation to serve these really large loads. And so to
a perspective I like to share often is how big are these loads? What does it really look like? They could be as large as 1,000 megawatts. In fact, if you look at the state of Virginia alone, they have 20,000 megawatts of grid-connected data centers today. Michigan's peak for 10 million people and all the businesses and homes and everything in this great state that we all know and love is about 20,000 megawatts. So there's a Michigan worth of data centers in Virginia. So these things are really big. What does that mean for us, and what are we trying to do with this large load playbook, call it, is make sure we actively manage how we fill that obligation to serve. So what does that mean? We have strong contracts, we demand upfront payments, we cover all of the costs, and there are billions of dollars of costs associated not just with the construction, but the power side alone. To meet Michigan's renewable energy requirement, to meet the generation requirements that are needed, you're talking somewhere in the range of $6 to $8 billion of new investment on the power side associated with a data center. So what we have to do if one of those data centers comes to us, and it's more likely that it'll be in urban areas where there are a lot more high voltage transmission lines than what we have in rural and northern Michigan. But we have to still be prepared to manage those costs on all of our behalf so that nobody's left holding the bag if the data center goes away at some point in the future. So strong contracts, working with your counsel like Jason Hanselman and internal counsel at Wolverine, Joe Bauman, to make sure we have a playbook to work with the members. So starts with an intake form that has a deposit, caps on your rate so their costs don't impact your costs back home, and ultimate protection that if and when they go away, you're not left with those stranded costs as they're known. So I think we've made some good progress together on that, and we'll continue to work on that. And if we have to fulfill that obligation, we'll be ready to manage that together. The second piece is the changing grid. And I'm really excited about the investment that our member, you have board members that represent Cherryland on the Wolverine board, that our members looked ahead, they looked long term. And so we have 3 really great pillars within our portfolio for the long-term benefit of the membership. We have a strong renewable portfolio. We've been a leader in renewables for nearly 20 years now. First commercial scale wind farm that put us ahead of all of the Michigan mandates. It puts us in a leadership position now and into the future. We have our peaking fleet, which are peaking power plants, just to give you a little bit of a perspective, they're called or affectionately referred to as peakers because they run when the load is the highest. Well, now they're running more and more to fill in for this changing grid. So if the sun's not shining, the wind's not blowing, something has to be there to back it up. And more often, that's our natural gas plants. And they can do it. We run them at the highest reliability within the North American fleet. We can measure that. So they're really highly reliable. And most importantly for you all, when it comes to the bill, when those units run, that benefit goes directly back to our members in power cost reduction. So the more we run, the more it serves to lower your electric bill, which is a good thing. We saw in the month of April, we set a new record for our peaking generation operations in that month. It's an unusual month. It's not a high load month. We know what the weather's like here. We still ran those units a lot and generated $3.5 million of positive benefit directly back to the members for that 1 month alone. So we're running our peakers a lot to fill in that gap. And the last big and important piece of our portfolio that'll be online here in the next few months is the Palisades nuclear plant and the restart of that plant. That's 800 megawatts for Michigan. That's 400 megawatts for Wolverine of 100% carbon-free power at a known and competitive price for nearly 3 decades. That is really exciting for us. And if it's exciting for Wolverine, it's exciting for Cherryland because we're in this together sharing those costs. So those are the portfolio pieces we have to manage this ever-evolving energy grid on behalf of the members. The last piece I'll talk about is inflation. And the good news here is we're not immune to rising labor costs. We're not immune to higher interest rates. We're not immune to filling up our trucks, though it's more expensive today. We all know that. And we'll continue to do what we can to be good stewards of the members' money. But what we do have is that the major costs, those big costs, were invested at yesterday's dollars. Palisades, we have a known cost that was contracted a few years ago now, and those costs are known and they're highly competitive compared to what we could do to replace. One quick example I will give you is the newest power plant we built 10 years ago. $200 million power plant. If we were to rebuild that plant today, it would cost us $1 billion. There's many utilities that need to build new power plants. Thankfully for us, our members trusted us and made those long-term investments so that we have a $200 million power plant for the next 3 decades and not $1 billion power plant for the next 3 decades. So I'm not promising that rates will go down or stay flat. The inflation is real, but what I can tell you is we're better positioned than most to weather that challenge of inflation. So I feel good about where we're going in our future. Really appreciate the opportunity from Rachel and the Cherryland board for us to be here tonight to provide you all an update, and proud to be your power supplier. I look forward to continuing to take care of the members' needs in the near term, and we have a portfolio that's positioned very, very well to take care of the members' needs for the long term, for the next 88 years and those annual meetings. So thank you again, Rachel, and to the Cherryland board. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Zach. We very much appreciate the relationship that we have with Wolverine. We're very grateful to have you here to be able to share a little bit about that, because you play an important role in our ability to make sure that we're delivering safe and reliable electricity to our members. So thanks again, Zach. Next up, I have the honor of introducing the true rock star of the show here tonight, the CEO of Cherryland Electric Cooperative, Rachel Johnson.
I think you're going to be disappointed if you thought you were getting a rock star. So I had prepared some remarks for tonight, and I was kind of thinking of them through the theme of meeting the moment and investing for the future. And I still want to talk about a few of those things, but I just can't fail to take advantage of the actual moment we're in. And so I would like to share something with you that I got to witness firsthand last night, and that I suspect I may get to witness again firsthand tonight. I have worked for Cherryland for almost 15 years, and I will tell you, I know storms are terrible, I know outages are terrible, but when you're actually in this business, it's actually kind of fun and exciting, because we are the kind of people who run to the storm. And it is the single greatest privilege of my life to get to work alongside people that I watch run to the storm for you every time the storm hits. They're leaving kids' birthday parties, they're leaving their own Thanksgiving table, they're leaving t-ball games, and they're running towards the storm because of how deeply proud they are of the work we do. And I got to see that last night. But what I really want to talk to you about, in addition to our people, which I will keep coming back to a few times this evening, is some of the things we've done over the last several years that really showed through last night. One of them is something we've been talking, well, actually, before I get to that one, let me give you a different one. A year ago, we hired a full-time data analyst to work for us here at Cherryland as a part of our strategic plan. What we see on the horizon is that we're going to need to be very, very good at analyzing and making decisions based on the data that is available to us. One of the initial tasks that we gave him was to help us create a model that could use both weather data and system data and begin to predict the ways an upcoming storm would impact our system earlier, so that we could start planning for the logistics of that before the storm hits. Last night was the first time we got to actually test out the model he's begun to build for us, and it worked. We were able to see earlier in the day exactly what was coming our way, exactly which feeders were likely to be impacted, and we planned accordingly, we staged accordingly, which meant when the storm hit, we were already ready to respond. The next thing that I got to watch happen last night, and as someone who has worked through a lot of storms, I will tell you this was not always the case, was the impact of our new metering system. As of this month, we will have fully replaced our digital metering system. We've had a digital metering system for decades, but we've replaced an older one with a newer one. That newer metering system has incredible accuracy in the moment of what is going on in our system. Historically, what would happen is a storm would hit and we'd start getting all kinds of weird readings from our meters, and we wouldn't really be quite sure which were real and which weren't real. And so the first hour or so of a storm would be spent trying to figure out what was actually going on. Last night, as I watched the meter reading data come in, it was immediately accurate. And again, validating what we had seen in those models that we'd used to predict what was going to happen. So we were able to move swiftly and get our team out where they needed to be in order to begin the process of restoring power. The third thing I got to watch last night, which is another investment we've made on your behalf over the last year, is the impact of our SCADA system. You don't have to know what that means, but essentially it's a system, it's a software system that we use to communicate with devices that have been installed throughout our system. And it allows us to say we had a 5-mile stretch of line that had been impacted by an outage. We can look now and say, well, the fault is actually right here. Let's go ahead and from our office, restore people on both sides of that fault and isolate it so that we can let our line crews work safely on restoring it while limiting the number of people impacted. Last night, once we saw that storm coming in, we knew exactly what was happening. Our SCADA team looked at it and started to restore power to people from the office. We were able to prevent or limit the impact of the outages for 25% of the people who would have initially been out. So within that first hour, because of all these investments, the metering system, the data analytics, and the SCADA system, we were able to prevent or limit outages for 25% of the people who would have been impacted. That is $10 million of investment we have made on your behalf over the last few years that came to fruition for our members last night, and that will also be there for us tonight should we need it. And I'm incredibly, incredibly proud of how that system performed. This may seem like easy to you, but I want to tell you the amount of work our team has put into evaluating, planning for, and then implementing and testing these systems is unbelievable. And so to get to see the systems work, to do the thing they love most, which is to keep your lights on and turn your lights on, is a moment I'm incredibly proud of. And I'm going to ask you to do something for me in 1 second. Before I do, I'm also going to tell you, you may notice when you look around here today that you don't see any line trucks and you don't see any line crews. That's because we've got those guys at home resting, so they're ready to go back out tonight for you. And so I'm just going to ask you, before I give you a few industry updates, to help me thank our employees for their investment, for their heart, and for the work that they have done on your behalf. I will say this over and over again, leading this team is the greatest privilege of my life. The thing that I've been able and given the opportunity to lead them through over the last few years is the development of what we're going to do for our headquarters. I've already, since I know you guys are all my loyalist fans and you come to all the annual meetings, you already know that we have completely outgrown the facility that we built over here in Grand back in the 1970s. It no longer serves us. We've spent about 4 years trying to figure out the best way to manage that on your behalf, to manage it as cost effectively as we can on your behalf. And I'm really excited to share with you that last month I signed a contract for the construction of a new 115,000 square foot headquarters over here on Rennie School Road, and we will break ground on that project in July. I'm not going to belabor it because you're going to get to see, we'll send you out all the information about it, and we have renderings of it over here that I hope you'll come look at. But I do just want to give you a few really high-level highlights about why we're so excited about that facility. That facility greatly expands our warehouse capability. Right now, we have equipment that we're having to store outside that really should be inside. We also have a lot of equipment we're having to move to get to other things. It's an incredibly inefficient way to run our operation. But in addition to that, you trust us to make investments on your behalf, and it breaks my heart when we buy an expensive truck for you and then I have to park it outside, right? And so this is going to allow us to have all that inside ready to go. We've built the truck bays in a way that they can be loaded for outages, loaded for underground and overhead outages inside the truck bays so they can roll fast when storms hit. We've also built this facility with the assumption that we will need to be storm hardened and cyber hardened. We will be able to run a 24/7 tornado secure, cyber secure dispatch operations center from that facility. facility. The other thing we've done is assume that we need to be prepared for big storms coming our way. When big storms hit us, the first thing we do is lean on our mutual aid partners, other co-ops and other utilities who send people to help us out. This facility is designed around the idea of not just supporting the home team, which is the best team, the home team, but also potentially hundreds of other line workers on site at that location. And so it's going to allow us to provide you better service and also faster service and more reliable service when things go wrong. We're really excited about that. Like I said, we'll break ground in July. We expect to move into that building sometime in 2028, likely in the spring. My hope, my dream, is that we will hold the 2028 annual meeting at your new headquarters, and we'll be really excited to share that with you. So please pay attention for updates along the way. One of the biggest questions I get about this particular project is how much is it going to cost? That contract that we signed is what's called a guaranteed maximum price contract. We did that because it protects you from cost overruns. So the contractor, the owner's rep, has guaranteed they will deliver us the building we've designed at a price of $35 million. That includes contingencies. They can't go over that. If they do, that's on them. If they're under it, we get to keep it. So it's a way of us protecting your costs. And I'm going to talk about rates in just a second, because I know that's the other big question. When I say 35 million, that number might not mean a lot to you. I mean, it sounds really big, but in the context of an organization that has invested hundreds of millions of dollars in your system just over the last 15 years, that number is kind of hard to contextualize. So the rates question is one I get all the time. And I want to start by acknowledging two things. Part of the reason I'm getting a lot of questions about rates and where things are going is because every single one of us is feeling the trends that Zach talked about, right? The fact that the cost of everything is going up. And then you're reading headlines that say there are utilities, even in the state of Michigan, that are raising rates 9, 10, 12% year over year. And so the question is like, is that going to happen to us? We are in the process right now of finalizing a 3-year rate forecast. So we have a really strong understanding of where our rates are headed. That forecast assumes the building. It assumes the tens of millions of dollars we will continue to invest in moving overhead lines underground. It assumes labor costs. It assumes tree trimming. It assumes all the costs we see coming. And what we're looking at right now is that we are likely going to be able to do all of that for you without having any rate increases above inflation. So over the next 3 years, you can expect your power bill to follow inflation, but not be over that. And I can't tell you how proud I am to be able to stand here and say that to you right now. It is a reflection of how strong our equity is, and how competitive we are as borrowers, which gives us access to lower interest capital on your behalf. And I'm really, really proud of the entire team for how carefully they've managed our cost and helped us prepare for this moment so that we could continue to invest on your behalf without having to come to you and ask for 10, 12, 15% rate increases. I don't see that. And I assure you, if I do see that, I will be the first one to raise the flag on that. The last thing I want to take a quick second and talk about before I hand it back over to the board here and answer any questions you have is to just kind of build on what Zach talked about with data centers, because that is the other big question I get. So let me start by saying I have heard from absolutely no data centers with any interest in connecting to Cherryland's system or building in our service territory. And I think that makes this the perfect time for us to plan for what we will do if a data center reaches out, because I want to make sure we've thought through everything that would need to happen to protect your interest before I'm sitting across the table from someone who can afford to pay lawyers a lot more than I can afford to pay them on your behalf. And so we've put a lot of work this year into developing policies and rate expectations in order to make sure that if someone comes calling, and I'm going to tell you right now, I actually don't think we're going to see hyperscale data center development in our community, but if someone comes calling, I can immediately tell them the rules they would have to abide by in order to interconnect to our system. One of the questions I get is, can't you just tell them no? Legally, I cannot just tell them no. So Zach talked about the obligation to serve. I have a legal obligation to serve anyone who asks us to serve. That probably sounds a little alarming right now, but I will remind you there was a time when nobody would serve your farm. And these laws were developed to make sure that if you were prepared to pay the cost of hooking up your farm, we could bring power to your farm. So we do have a legal obligation to serve anyone who asks. If a data center comes to Cherryland today with the policies we're putting in place, the very first thing that will happen is they will be required to pay a deposit or excuse me, a non-refundable application fee between $100,000 and $250,000. This is my way of making sure that I don't waste your staff's time on speculative data center inquiries. They have to be serious if they want access to our team. If they are willing to do that, they will then be given a tariff that will require them to pay 100% of the cost to figure out what we would have to upgrade in order to interconnect them into our system. They will also have to pay 100% of the cost to do all of that work. They will have to put down security deposits, and they will have to basically guarantee the cost for the lifetime of whatever we invest in order to interconnect them, regardless of whether they ever purchase a kilowatt hour from us. These are the best policies available to us to protect your interest inside a world where there are parts of it that are outside of our control, including the ability to say no. But we have done a lot of work over the last year to make sure that if that happens and we have to say yes, we are saying yes according to rules that protect your interest. I think there will be more to come on this, and we will continue to keep you in the loop on it, but I wanted to take a moment and answer that question because it is one of the most common questions I get right now. And so with that, I just want to wrap up right back where I started and say that leading this cooperative is such an incredible privilege. I am so grateful to get to do this work, but I'm mostly so grateful to get to do it alongside what I believe is the best, brightest, most talented, passionate, and resilient electric cooperative team in the entire United States. So thank you for letting me do this. And again, one more time, thank you for the team. We do have time for a few questions. I will warn you guys, just so you know, at like 6:30, don't be surprised if the team scoots out because we're going to go back and get ready for the outages coming our way. But we do have time for a few questions, and I've got a roaming mic. What are you going to do with the old facility? Oh, that's a great question. The question is, what are we going to do with our old headquarters? And actually, it lets me talk about one thing first. We spent a lot of time actually scoping out what it would take to stay in that headquarters and to remodel it. And the costs weren't actually that different because of how much work it needed, but it was a little less expensive. The problem we were going to have is we were going to have to move out of it for 18 months to 2 years while we remodeled it. The nice thing now is we get to live in it while we build your new home. But our expectation is probably when we have real certainty about our move-in date, like we have actual construction momentum, we will go ahead and start looking for a buyer for that building. And the nice thing about that is once we sell that building, that's probably going to bring that cost difference between remodel and move down to about parity. We're working right now on how best to leverage that sale moment, but what some of the ideas we're scoping out will likely involve a capital credit retirement attached to the sale of that building that all of you have invested in. So I can't tell you today how long it's going to take to sell it. I can't promise you how much we're going to get for it, but our intention is to sell it. And given its location and what it has kind of available there, I do believe we'll have good access to good buyers. So thank you for that question.
And through Facebook that I want to read to you from Scott V. It says it's in terms of a data center, so just context there because there's a lot of big words here. With the massive influx of regional data center capacity demanding new power generation and grid upgrades, the utility is taking on substantial debt to build out infrastructure. Can you guarantee that the interest and principal payments on these new construction loans will be paid exclusively through dedicated rate structures for these high-load commercial users rather than being rolled into the general rate base and subsidized by everyday residential ratepayers?
Yes, that's exactly. Thank you, Facebook Scott. That is exactly what these policies are designed to do in terms of distribution system cost and distribution system upgrades. So the answer is yes. Yeah. Well, I will be around. I'll be out here. Oh, we got another one. Hi, Tom.
I frequently drive past the corner of County Road 633 and Fall Road where there's a big sign that says Wolverine Power or something like that. I'm assuming that might be their main location, but it might just, I don't know if that's maybe just a small satellite.
It's a great question. So thank you for asking it. Let me back up one step and say one of the reasons it was important to me to have Zach here giving you all an update is because of the it is a true it's a marriage. We are married to Wolverine. Okay, so it is a true partnership. And as a part of that partnership, Wolverine's headquarters, which is in Cadillac, and they operate power plants throughout the area, but they also have dedicated staff here in our area who show up to that facility and maintain the substations and transmission assets that are on our system, which is also not only an important part of your reliability, it's an important part of our storm response as well. So if there were to be an issue that impacted power at a substation or a transmission line in our system, they would deploy line workers directly from that facility.
Okay, and the question I was getting to, it seems to me in the last maybe 6 months or less, there's quite a buildup of additional equipment at that site, as if they're planning ahead to be ready to respond if there's loss of transformers and such. Is that correct?
Do you want to talk about anything you guys have going on there?
Yeah, well, that's the expansion we brought, so. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, do you want to talk a little bit about the substation piece? Thank you.
Yeah, so part of the marriage that Rachel referred to is we own the distribution substations on behalf of the members, and that there on Fall Road and 633 is one of those distribution substations. Well, there's been some exciting growth in the area, including a new Meijer store that's coming here. And so we're working with Cherryland and their team to expand that substation to be able to serve more load in this area. So we'll see economic development associated with that, as well as improved reliability enhancements, because Frank Sepker and the team at Cherryland are always looking for opportunities to say, hey, if we're doing that, how else can we benefit the members to improve reliability, enhance the system? And so that's the activity you see at that facility, is we're expanding to help meet that new load growth in the area.
Thank you. Yep. The other cool thing, and I'm sorry, you asked, so now I just have to answer all these questions. So thanks for giving me a chance. No, so the other really neat thing that we have going on with the build out to this new Meijer, so you all see this growth right here on this corridor. There was the Amazon that came in, and now the Meijer's going in there. So all of that has, again, it created the need for additional capacity on that substation. But the other thing we took advantage of in that discussion with them about interconnecting those facilities is to connect our Grand substation to our Potter substation, which will allow us to backfeed along that corridor. And that's that thing I was talking about earlier with our SCADA system, and our ability to go in and limit the scope of an outage is dependent on our ability to feed people from multiple directions. So this not only benefits those who are directly served by that Grand substation, but it creates additional redundancy in our system that benefits everybody on Potter and Grand with that backfeeding capability, which we're really, really excited about. Yes.
Hi, Rachel.
Hi, Mark.
My question is centered around a buzzword that you hear globally now, and that's artificial intelligence. Can you explain how you view artificial intelligence both positively and negatively as it relates to not only Cherryland, but the industry as a whole? And more specifically, how do you think this could impact your workforce?
It's a great question. So artificial intelligence is a big buzzword right now, and this is going to turn into the longest annual meeting you guys ever came to. So here's what our approach is at Cherryland, and it's really trying to thread a needle. One is, and this is really important, and this is a hill I will die on. We will not lose our humanity in this process. I hear from people every single day how much they love being a part of a cooperative that is a part of their community, that they see us, that when you call, you talk to us. Any of you at any time can talk to me. You can hear from me. So the number one thing I will say is we will never lose our humanity in this process. In terms of it impacting our workforce, here's where things get interesting, because one of the things that is true about Cherryland and is unique, we are the leanest electric cooperative in the United States of America. We serve more meters per employee than any other utility of our size in the United States of America. Efficiency is our main competitive advantage. It is one of the reasons that your rates are 20% lower than other utilities serving in this area, and it is tied entirely to our efficiency. So I view AI through the lens of how do I use those technological developments to protect the efficiency that we have benefited from all along, not to replace someone who's already here or something we're already doing. So we will not lose our humanity. We will use it to augment our efficiency. And I genuinely believe that potential is there for us. And we're also excited about it because it kind of gives us a chance to do new things. That outage prediction model that I described to you, some people would say that's AI. What it really is using data and technology to predict what's going to happen and then making good business decisions based on that. So I see a lot of use cases. We're definitely going to kick the tires on those use cases, but every decision we make with AI will always be through the lens of maintaining our humanity while also protecting our efficiency. Well, I will be around, so please, by all means, if you have other questions, ask, and I'm really, again, appreciative of you all for coming out tonight.
Great. Thank you again, Rachel. Really appreciate that. You are a rock star. You are this board's rock star, and all the Cherryland staff are rock stars as well. Before we move down the agenda, I just wanted to give a shout out to the board that I serve with and thank all of you for your time and service on this board. A lot of those initiatives and really cool new things that we're doing that Rachel talked about are things that the board have deliberated on and voted on and made recommendations to do. So thank you for the board for investing in our membership, in infrastructure, and making sure that we're always looking ahead. So thanks to you. Is there any other unfinished business before us? Any new business before us? Seeing none, it has come time to announce the results of the 2026 directorial election. And with that, I would welcome Jason back to the podium to share those results.
Thank you again, Gabe. The ballots have been counted. The results are in. Regarding the Leelanau County Board seat, the results are as follows. Tom Van Pelt received 2,505 votes, and we had 35 write-ins. So Tom Van Pelt, having received the most votes, is elected to the Board of Directors, re-elected to the Board of Directors. Congratulations, Tom. With regard to the at-large board seat, the results are as follows. David Schweitzer received 1,711 votes, and Brian Fenlon received 1,124 votes, and we had 10 write-in votes in that race. So David Schweitzer received the most votes and is re-elected to the board. Congratulations, Dave.
Thank you, Jason, and congratulations, Dave and Tom. Appreciate your service on this fantastic board. At this time, I'd ask the secretary to attach the certificate of inspection of the election to the minutes of this meeting. And finally, we want to thank our members for participating in this election and your continued engagement in the cooperative. So if you have any further questions, feel free to come and find us throughout the rest of the evening. The raffle is being queued up and ready to go at 6:30. And without seeing any further business before us, I would let you all know that this meeting is adjourned. So thank you for your time.